Welcome to the weekend. I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate, ready for a Wonkapalooza tonight. Actually, this is good stuff here. As you know, the state is facing a $1 billion shortfall, which is going to land right in your pocketbook. Is there any way to save it, or will we have more tax increases? I mean fee increases coming up this year? From the Independence Institute, one of our senior fellows, Penn Pfiffner, who has put together every answer you could possibly want, a signature project that we've been working on for a long time at the Independence Institute, and we wanted to debut it here. Penn, thanks for putting this together.
Well, John, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to hours of discussion about
hours
this.
Of good wonky stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Before we introduce what you've been able to compile with the help of just scores of people, the citizens' budget, to steer us through this problem we have of $1 billion shortfall and beyond. Let's talk about this problem. I keep hearing that we've got an issue in the budget. And I've always heard we don't have enough money. I mean, it's like every politician that says we'll get them next year, and every coach that says, well, we'll be back after the playoffs. We never have enough money. This year, it's real different, isn't it?
And it's important you said that you've heard again and again that we never have enough money. And the case has been that the system is set up such that there is just never enough revenue. But we've been talking about, in the past, fairly small amounts compared to the problem coming up. You know, 100 million, 150 million, now 200 million. That's the stuff we've heard before. But the way it's been handled is always to wait, as you say, till next year. Kick the can down the road, let somebody else handle it. They've done such things as, move back a payroll by 1 day. But they do it at the end of the year, so it hits the next fiscal year.
That was a trick that happened when Owens was leading the governor's office. And so we had a budget shortfall. So for that pay period that ended on December 31st, we're going to make it on
June 30th, yeah.
We're going to make it happen on January 1st. And that way it's not on the books for this year, and we look okay.
We look okay.
But really, that only kicks the can 1 year ahead.
You know, it's accounting manipulations. It was also raiding cash funds and taking money that people put in good faith for things like hunting licenses and regulations and all the rest. And it was also increasing taxes, but we called them fees, you see.
That way we wouldn't have to vote on them, because the Constitution says if you're raising taxes, there has to be a vote, but if you're raising fees, there doesn't have to be.
That's it.
So now that we're all paying more in car registration taxes, they call it a fee, and the Supreme Court let them do it.
Now see, that all allowed these problems that were smaller to be taken care of. And then last year, the problem really should have hit. But what happened instead? You had the federal government, between Congress and the Obama administration, pouring in $641 million of stimulus funds. And that was Colorado's portion of a much larger pot that went to all the states. But those stimulus funds allowed the state government to say, okay, we can continue to prop up our budget by that amount. Well, now we hear the stimulus funds are not coming back for the next budget year, and the legislature truly is going to have to grapple with something that is close to $1 billion problem.
Let me put this into terms I can understand. Every year we've had a shortfall, and then it's been covered, and it looks like we don't have as much money to spend all the things that we wanted to spend on. Welcome to politics, that's always the case. Last year it got to really epic proportions, but the feds bailed us out by turning on the printing presses on the Fed level, giving us a pile of cash. And now it's really hitting. When you say we have $1 billion shortfall, that means nothing to most of us. Give me an idea. How big is $1 billion in the state budget? Is this a rounding error, or is this a huge amount?
It's about 12%, 13% of what we're going to expect next year. And so you're right. We've had too little money, and we've pushed off the problem. Now they're going to have to confront it, and that's to keep the budget, the operating day-to-day budget for the state government and all its services, continuous at that current level.
As Governor Hickenlooper takes over, he's coming in at just the right, beautiful time that any politician wants to come in, when there's massive shortfalls, where hard decisions are going to need to be made, or massive amounts of money will need to be raised. And what I've been hearing for years, particularly from the left, is, you know, the problem is that we're not getting enough money. That Tabor, for instance, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, is strangling state's ability to bring in the money that we need. And so if we don't fix this on the revenue side and some sort of permanent way to get these constitutional amendments to work together, we need to fix this, and we need to fix it by starting at the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So this shortfall is Tabor's fault.
Well, first of all, Tabor hasn't been in effect during a recession. Tabor only keeps government from growing too fast when lots of revenues are coming in and the system would allow the government to collect an ever larger proportion of the budget, of the economy. And what it says is we're going to restrain how fast government grows. So that happens when you're in good years. In bad years, you never bump up to that Tabor limit, so Tabor really hasn't been in effect. The only way you could say that it has been is that the legislature can't raise taxes without going to a vote of the people. But even the most ardent Keynesian would not say, oh, let's go out and raise taxes at the beginning of a recovery, because everybody knows raising taxes in a bad economy like this only kills that nascent recovery. But, you know, the point of this whole project that we've done has to get back to what the left is saying. They're going to tell you, and you're going to hear this time and again in the coming months, that we have cut all the fat out of the budget. We are down to sinew and bone, and it's hurting.
We're going to be cutting basic governmental services. You know what happened down in Colorado Springs where they had to throw rocks at the street lamps to get them to turn off so they could save the electricity? That's going to happen here. The fire trucks aren't going to run. The GLs are going to be opening up their doors and letting people out. We have cut to the bone. And I mean, I hear this over and over. There is nothing more to cut.
And that's what this project does. 170 pages of suggestions of how you do government differently. Because, John, as you've pointed out, this isn't a revenue problem. Let's look at the states that really have large revenues per capita. So we're looking at how much they take per citizen. And the top one's New Jersey. We don't want New Jersey's problems.
Why not?
That's multiples.
Tell me what New Jersey's problem is.
That's multiples.
Besides being full of guys from Jersey, what is their problem?
New Jersey, New York, they all take in lots more money per capita, and yet their budgets are still strained. They're trying to cut an even larger proportion than Colorado.
So we have a deficit coming up here of about 12% of our budget. In places like New York and New Jersey, it's even worse. And of course, if we didn't have Tabor, that kept the growth of government from going. We might have had a New Jersey type situation. What about California? I mean, California seems to be the granddaddy in my mind.
I mentioned New Jersey and New York because those are number 1 and number 2 in per capita income. California is number 6, so it's way up at the top as well. And of course, its problems are such that in the past it's been handing out IOUs to people it owed money to because it didn't have cash.
So in other words,
when
you pay your taxes, your income taxes, and you want your tax refund because you overpaid, the government said, "Yeah, sorry, I already expended it." Which worked fine for my cousin, but it doesn't work well when I'm getting that from the government. All right. Then, when you say that we're going to have to cut, is it only about cutting? I mean, is the idea that Hickenlooper and the Republicans and Democrats, the Republicans control the state house by one single vote, and Democrats control the state Senate, that they're going to sit there and they're going to fight over what is going to be slashed, what it is we're going to kill, what it is, which old ladies get kicked out of the nursing homes and which criminals get back on the streets?
The decisions that have to be made are always difficult for any legislator. But let's get back to what you said earlier, that the system always is coming up with what appears to be deficits. Now, we're not going to call it that because in Colorado, constitutionally, you can't have deficit spending like they do at the federal level. But you can have.
Let me jump on that because I don't think a lot of people get this one. The feds have the ability to put money on a credit card, to get a cash advance out on future generations and spend that money now. Colorado, the state, actually can't do that. At the end of the year, we can't spend more than we've taken.
Right, and the Constitution says, Colorado state government, you may not do this. End discussion.
So when we have a deficit in our budget, it's a problem because we just can't take a loan out and fix it.
Can't borrow, certainly can't print money, can't inflate the money supply. So you have to end up with a balanced budget at the end of the year. So we are set up such that there is never enough revenue. The system kind of requires that the programs expand at a faster pace than the citizens can afford it.